This, we're going to bring in more of our terrorism experts. We have CNN national security analyst Peter Bergen, CNN intelligence and security analyst Bob Baer, and former CIA military analyst Tara Mahler. So, Peter, we're learning that obviously Berlin was very familiar with this individual. The U.S. was familiar with him. Is it possible that this was a failure on the part of German officials, but that it's also something that is just very difficult to prevent? This idea, the slipping through the cracks?
Well, maybe both. I mean, it's clearly a failure. But, you know, it wasn't like he went out and bought, you know, very, very exotic explosives. He hijacked a truck. That's pretty hard to prevent. Clearly, you know, this is going to be a huge problem for Angela Merkel. She was already in deep political trouble because of the various crimes refugees have been involved in. But here we have an asylum seeker carrying out this mass casualty attack. And, you know, it's going to be politically very hard for her to kind of excuse this.
So even when he's sort of he's in the deportation pipeline, he's run into law enforcement, there's a police informant who knows that he's talking about doing these things, that's not enough to go after somebody? Or there's just so many possibilities like that, that is it hard for German authorities to say, this guy's a priority?
I'm not sure what the German legal framework is for like keeping a case open.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously in this country, at a certain point, if you don't have enough derogatory information, you have to close it. But the fact is they've got, you know, hundreds and hundreds of Germans who've gone to Syria, come back. Each one of those people takes 25 or more people, you know, to follow if you're going to follow them 24/7. Not to excuse any of this, but, you know, this is a resource problem as much as anything else.
What do you think, Tara, that German authorities need to be looking at this point, and what they likely are looking at to try to track him down?
Sure. Well, they were at some of the known places that he frequented today, so I'm sure they're trying to recover anything that he left in those places, talking to individuals who know him, both his family members, colleagues, other individuals that they might have already previously arrested that may have had ties to him. And obviously what's always critical in these cases is if they can recover anything, and I don't think they have to this point, but a laptop, a cell phone, all those records to sort of work out in sort of concentric rings the individuals he's in close contact with and who might know those people. And then also, obviously, evidence that was left at the scene of the actual attack, which is and recovered from the truck, the fingerprints, and all those things that for the investigation will allow them to, you know, press the actual charges when they find him. And then when they get him, the intelligence that they can hopefully glean from him, assuming they capture him alive.
Bob, there's a concern, obviously, that members of this recruitment network could be helping Omri hide, and yet Tara also pointed out earlier that there were a lot of arrests when you're talking about the top guys in this network. So how much can they really hide him in the way that we might have seen with the Paris attacker, who was able to evade authorities for months and months?
If they've had experience getting people out of the country, they may be able to get him out. A lot of these people are involved in criminal activities, whether it's drugs, arms, and the rest of it, and they know borders, they know the weak point, how to get out. So there's a possibility this guy could get away if it's part of a larger network. If he were on his own, I'd say they would have caught him by now. And it all depends how deep the Germans are into this network. Apparently they had a source. It's a source they didn't want to lose, and that's why they weren't quick to arrest him or deport him. They were probably collecting more information at this point. I think it's disturbing that the Islamic State this late in the game is operating a network in Germany, a fairly efficient police, and got around him.
Peter, there's a certain formula to someone like Anis Amri, certainly in their thinking. And so as he is now on the loose, what is his goal? Is another attack perhaps his goal?
I think if he follows the pattern of a lot of these guys, he is, as Tara suggested, he's going to go out in a blaze of glory, which ends in his death. The question is how and when. That is that most of these people are effectively hoping to have some sort of suicide by cop at the end of the story.
And certainly, and you mentioned that may be what you're expecting, and that's obviously a concern of German officials.
He knows that law enforcement is looking for him, so presumably if he's armed or if he has access to more weapons, he was armed at the time of the attack, he killed somebody already. Why not do something else?
And now he has a vote in how this ends. I mean, he now plays a role in deciding this. And going back to what Peter was talking about, you know, in the United States, you know, we have a lot of systems in place. They call them tripwires to try to prevent people from using big trucks like this. For instance, they work with the trucking companies to make sure that these people are vetted, to make sure that there's nobody who is an extremist who has access to this kind of vehicle. This goes all around it because he just hijacked it. So that's one of the scary things about this particular attack.
Certainly is. All right, you all stand by. We're going to talk much more about this and certainly many things to talk about when it comes to world affairs today. And President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump